Okay, Dr. RJB, and let's go with a medical topic this time. I do a lot of fitness and nutrition, type of videos. This one's a medical topic, and the topic is metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is a triad of three different processes. One is blood sugar problems, cholesterol problems, and blood pressure problems. They have found that when people get into the Middle Ages, they frequently have all three of these problems at the same time. And so they develop blood sugar that goes up and have a tendency towards diabetes. Their cholesterol goes up and they have a tendency towards heart disease. Their blood pressure goes up and they have a risk of heart attack or stroke. So these three, like I said, when they're in combination, we call it metabolic syndrome. Now, what's the cause of this metabolic syndrome? It seems to be a resistance or reduction in the hormones that are controlling these. In the case of diabetes, it's pretty simple. Everybody pretty much knows it. It has to do with insulin. People become resistant to the effects of insulin, and then they need some assistance. Basically, the resistance to insulin is kind of like this. The body's not listening to me. I'm giving it the insulin, it's not listening. So I'm going to shout harder. So for a while, the person who's diabetic may have an elevated insulin level, but it's just not working. In other words, it's not doing its job of taking the sugar and pushing it into the cells for energy. Eventually, in some cases, the insulin level can go down because the pancreas gets burned out, and so now you have to add insulin to help the person out. Or you add medications that stimulate the pancreas and help it to make more insulin. So most of the diabetics drugs do one or the other, either increase insulin or increase the body's ability to use insulin. With cholesterol, there's a chemical called HMG-CoA reductase, which is a molecule that basically kind of controls the processing of fats into cholesterol. We actually use medications called statins, like the medication Lipitor, which is a torvastatin. They usually have statin at the end of them. And these statins help to block the effects of these chemical and so prevent the body from making cholesterol. So you have less cholesterol basically at the end of it. You don't, in other words, take the fats and turn them into cholesterol with the statin. The statin blocks some of this. Now, the blood pressure has been linked to problems with a system called the renin-angiotensin system. Renin-angiotensin is a system in the kidney. When the blood pressure drops, the kidney can't do a good job of filtering. So the kidney has a way of managing the blood pressure by producing a chemical called renin, which eventually helps the body to convert into angiotensin, and as angiotensin then controls the blood pressure. If you happen to be on an ACE inhibitor for your blood pressure, that's what we're talking about. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor is the ACE inhibitor. These are medications that help people control their blood pressure by working on this angiotensin system. These systems seem to be kind of reduced as people get older. So, like I said, the insulin, becomes less effective. The HMG system becomes less effective, so the cholesterol goes up. The angiotensin system becomes less effective, and the blood pressure goes up. So we do have medications that can work in all these systems, but this, like I said, is the metabolic system. Now, one thing that they notice along with this is that when these systems go out of control, people also seem to go out of control with their weight. In other words, people find that it's a lot easier to put on weight instead of maintaining their weight. Because of this reduction in the systems that control the metabolism of sugar and fats, etc., they tend to put on weight very easily. Again, this is just another example of the fact that people who put on weight when they get older are not just bad people, but they have problems with their metabolism that makes it easier for them to put on weight. And so, they have to do certain things to help. And if they do this, sometimes they can reduce their metabolic syndrome. I had metabolic syndrome when I was in my late 40s. I got into an exercise program. I changed my diet. I lost a lot of weight. And, my metabolic syndrome disappeared. But I had elevated blood sugar, elevated cholesterol, and elevated blood pressure, all three. I knew I was in trouble. I had to do something, so I did it. So basically, that's one answer to this. And then there's also, of course, the medications that we use to control this. So we can do it one way or the other, either naturally or with medication. Okay, take care.